In fact, I do miss in a way I do miss World Championship Wrestling, but more than that, I miss the World Wrestling Federation.
Yeah, back when yeah, and when I think back to the 80s, and actually I've got WWE Network, and I'm trying to work my way through chronologically. I'm in the 1984 era. There's not a lot of events. It's mostly that show Tuesday Night Titans. But as far as characters, yes, the WWF at the time, it kind of had more of a cartoony aspect. But you know what they're missing today that they had then? The larger than life characters, the completely unique characters. Everyone, no one was like each other.
Except maybe tag teams, but that's it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're supposed to be if you're a team. That
Yeah.
kind of makes it. But I mean, you had guys like Jake the Snake and Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan and Million Dollar Man and Rick Rude, and I mean, all these guys are like when you just hear their names. If you've watched any of that stuff, they're all completely unique to each other.
You forgot Mr. Perfect.
Yes.
Mr. Perfect, I'm sorry, Mr. Perfect was a man. It's sad that he never did get to be the champion, but back then you had to book a very strong champion, or at least that was the idea at the time. But I have a feeling that had he wrestled in a later time, he no doubt he would have been the champion
Oh yeah.
by miles and miles away. In fact, if he hadn't been injured as much, he probably would have been a champion in the mid 90s. By that point Hulk Hogan had left, if you
Right.
remember, for WCW, and we'll get back to that in a moment. And then, what was I? Oh yeah, we were talking about championships, and then last but not least, the secondary championships. I use the United States Championship and the Intercontinental Championships. Straight up,
Pretty standard fare.
it's pretty standard fare. And now, of course, on occasion, Rick does do some of the pay-per-views in universe mode. You can you may as well
Actually, I
explain that.
do all of the pay-per-views. That yeah, and that was another thing I was actually thinking of while you were talking about your primary, secondary, and setting titles in your universe.
Yes.
I did at one point have like where I had my XTW titles as the primary and all that. But then I kind of got to this way of thinking where it's like, because when we get to the pay per views, or for those of you familiar with universe mode, when it's a specially labeled match, because most of the matches it just says match one, match two, match three. But if it says like number one contender, or it says, I think in your version it'll say highlight match, on 2K16 it'll be a rivalry match. If it's one of those, I just record the match, record the results. I let it do its thing pretty much. In that way we kind of incorporate, I guess, a little bit of story into XTW, even though we have no control over it.
That's true.
But when we get to the pay per view, oh, and I do 3 shows a week on the in-game calendar.
Yeah, in game, not in real life. Just so we get that out of the way.
Although it's possible to do 3 shows a week if I get responses quick enough, and Mr. TehJew keeps me waiting up quite a bit, but that's okay.
Well, of course, because I have school and all
College.
that's, and it's kind of a drag. But then again, you realize that. I mean, it's like I can't watch videos as often as I used to, just because I have like 3 classes, and they're not like blockbusting difficult, but if I how do I put this? If I take my eye off the ball for too long, then I'll fall behind. But you know that.
Oh yeah, damn adult responsibilities.
Yeah, but I'm thinking that by the time summer comes along, stuff will be coming up really quick. And
So let's see. So what we were saying on the shows, playing those match. Oh yeah, the
pay per
three
views.
shows a week in game.
Yeah.
I pretty much the characters that are on the shows, and this kind of goes back again. It's kind of the premise I had on the Monday show on the in-game calendar. I The characters that are activated are all guys that are in the singles rankings. So that's kind of how it plays in, how we get the story. So whenever somebody drops out of the hopefuls pool and drops out of the rankings, I take them off the show and I add in whoever won the hopefuls pool.
And you do the
Now,
same thing for the tag team variation, right?
that's the Friday show.
Okay.
They get the guys that are in the tag rankings. They are all activated on the Friday show. And of course, those two shows, since they're major shows on the in-game calendar, they have the rivalries that happen, which I have those features. You can actually turn off rivalries so that you're in control of everything that happens, but they're kind of fun, especially some of them cutscenes.
Yes. And some of those cutscenes, they make sense. Other ones are like, what the hell?
Yeah. And then I have a midweek show, which is a 5-match show, and it's a minor show. And I just kind of do that so that I'm not like uh, overloaded with rivalry matches during the show. So there's a place where the XCW matches straight out. We do those. But when we get to the pay-per-view at the end of the month, because every 4 weeks on the in-game calendar you get the pay-per-view, we just do just like the rivalry matches and everything. We just play those out and let those be exactly as they are.
That's a pretty good concept, and you know what? It works for me, man. Especially when it happens at the time, and then speaking of pay-per-views,
Are you thinking what I think you're thinking?
yes,
What happened on this last one?
yeah, we had there was a number of matches. I'm like, oh, you know what? Okay,
The first match.
okay, tell them.
Oh my God! I mean, and anyone who's played any of these games, there's glitches that seem to happen left and right.
Oh yes, and what we're talking about is how the game books the matches. Now, I've seen glitches in the game where, like for example, I'll just use my own series because I'm pretty sure most people that are watching this are more familiar with it.
Yes.
Especially when two competitors
Yeah, I don't
climb
have
a
any
ladder.
viewers hardly at all. But go ahead.
Well, I hope by the time this is over, you'll have more viewers. But whenever two people climb a ladder, for some reason they end up higher. They end up like floating in the air as if they were still holding onto the ladder, but they're like at least 1 or 2 feet in the game higher than they should be. And it's like they're flying or something, and I'm like, what?
Oh, it's so funny, and I love how you react as if it's like real. You have like a real reaction to it.
Like I would say something like, let me see. Oh, yeah, more messages. Okay. Oh yeah, I would be like, I mean, Retro Rick, he's climbing the ladder, and then what? What the hell?
Did you folks just see what I saw?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would say. I'm like, it's just some of the things that happen in the game, like, or in a match, I should say, more specifically. They just catch you off guard, and then some.
What was that one you had where it was the female match and
Oh, of course.
one was laying on the announce table and one went up to the top corner
Oh,
and
of
jumped
course.
off and missed and the table didn't break or nothing.
Oh, right. Yes. Well, you know what? I'll just put the link in the description, entitled "The Concrete Table Match," because that's practically what it was. I'm like, it's really supposed to be the women's championship match with 4 women, including my very good friend, or 2 of my good friends, I should say, of whom I interviewed prior, Ryoko and my good friend Crazy Candy Lady. And it was Crazy Candy Lady and Ryoko that were the ones trying to break a table that I thought, is that table made out of concrete or something?
Didn't it happen like 3 times?
Yeah, or 4 times actually, 2 apiece. And it wasn't until Candy's head broke the table. No offense, Candy. Candy, don't take this as an offense, but that's just what happened in the match. But even she couldn't stop laughing at the concrete table.
Yet